In Unit 1, we're going to be looking at active and passive voice in a sentence. And essentially, what that means is we're trying to figure out if the subject is doing the action or if the subject is receiving the action of the main verb in the sentence. So if the subject is doing the action, we call that active voice. If the subject is being acted upon or receiving the action, it is being passive, not active. So we are calling that passive voice. So let's take a look at Johnny drove the red convertible. What's the action in that sentence? It is drove. Let's take a look at this sentence. What is the action in that sentence? The action is ate. So we have to ask ourselves, we're going to find a subject in this sentence. So the only word we have before the verb, that's our subject, Johnny. Did Johnny do the driving, or was the driving done to Johnny? And in that case, Johnny did the driving. Johnny's doing the action. We're calling that active voice. Did the dog do the eating, or did somebody eat the dog? And in this case, our dog ate the Thanksgiving turkey. It's doing the eating. We call both of these active voice. Subject doing the action that is expressed in the verb. Now, we can express the same idea in the sentence, but we can invert the word order. Perhaps we want to focus more on the convertible than we do on Johnny. Perhaps we want to focus more on the turkey than we do on the dog. So in those cases, we can invert the sentences. We can put what used to be the object in the subject slot. And if it's the thing that comes first, it's going to be our subject. So in this case, our subject is convertible. Our convertible was driven by Johnny. And so now we have changed the verb a little bit. The verb is was driven. Our Thanksgiving turkey was eaten. So now we have still the verb drove or driving, still the verb eat or eating. And so now we have the convertible was driven. Is the convertible doing that action that is driven? Is it doing the driving? And the answer is no. The driving is being done to the convertible. The convertible, the subject, is receiving the action of that verb. Same thing with Thanksgiving turkey being eaten by the dog. The eating is being done to the turkey. So the subject turkey is receiving the action of the verb. And when we have a sentence structured like that, because the subject is doing that receiving because it's being passive, not active, we're calling that the passive voice. So those sentences are passive voice. Now, one more thing. In both of these sentences, you have the word by. We know in these sentences who's doing that action. But in passive sentences, we often don't know who's doing that action. In fact, that's why we might write a sentence in a passive voice. If there's a red convertible and it's near a tree and we don't know who put it there, then it's likely we might say the red convertible was parked near a tree. We don't know who did the parking. But we know that the convertible did not do the parking. The convertible isn't doing the action. The action is being done, or the subject is receiving that action. So that makes that a passive sentence. Similarly, with the Thanksgiving turkey had been eaten before we arrived. We don't know who ate it. Could have been the dog, could have been Uncle John. So in any case, though, the turkey is receiving the action of that main verb being eaten. It is receiving that action. That makes it a passive voice. Stay tuned for part 2, where we talk about how to form the active voice.